and I also hope that you are having an amazing day so far. So, today we'll be doing our grade 1 English lesson on adjectives that compare. So, we're doing our grade 1 English lesson on adjectives that compare. And before we start, we're going to log into a+students.ca. We're going to log in with our username as well as our password. Once we've logged in with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts and then grade 1. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of adjectives that compare. So this lesson of today is basically a continuation of the lesson that we did last week. So last week we did adjectives that compare, but we focus on the lesson of compare pictures using comparative and superlative adjectives, as well as identifying comparative and superlative adjectives. So today for our lesson, so for today's lesson, we are going to focus on the chapter of also adjective compare, language arts, grade 1. But the lessons that we are focusing on today is to identify comparative and superlative adjectives. And does the adjective compare to or more than to? So that is going to be our focus lessons for today. So yes, as much as we did adjectives that compare last week, but we are going to do a continuation because there was one or two of the lessons that we did not do. And we are doing our lesson, our tutorial lesson on a+students.ca. So you're going to go back, recap, go over the work, and then you can go to a+students.ca. On our whiteboard, we have the chapter, which is adjectives that compare, English language arts, grade 1, and we also have our focus lesson for today. And that is on a+students.ca. And we're going to end off with a reading piece, which is going to be on a+classes.ca. And that's going to be our reading. So we're going to be reading an audiobook. And that will be on a+classes.ca. But that will be for the end of our lesson. Now we're going to identifying comparative and superlative adjectives, because that is basically adjectives that compare. And adjectives that compare, right? When we compare adjectives, then we have comparative adjectives and we have superlative adjectives, right? Because we are comparing adjectives. And when it comes to a comparative adjective, And when it comes to comparative adjective, then comparative adjectives, it compares two people, animals, places, or things. So that is basically only two. So it's two people that is being compared, right? And then our adjective ends in er. So if we compare Mia, or how tall Mia is, to Cassie, right? Then we can maybe say Mia is taller than Cassie. So our base word was tall, right? So our base word was tall. But now if we compare these two, which is comparative adjective, we add er to that word. So now we say it's taller. So we say Mia is taller than Cassie. And that is a comparative adjective because we have compared now these two people, which is Mia and Cassie. And we said Mia is taller than Cassie. We can't say Mia is tall than Cassie. No. You need to add an er to the adjective. And then we say Mia is taller than Cassie. We don't say Mia is tall than Cassie. And that is called a comparative adjective, where we compare two people, two animals, two places, or two things. Then we have a superlative adjective. Then we have a superlative adjective. And a superlative adjective, right? It compares more than two people, animals, places, or things. And they end basically in est. Sorry. So if we compare two people, let's say more than two people, the adjective ends in est. If we compare more than two animals, places, or things, our adjective ends in est. So we already said we already compared Mia to Cassie, right? And that is two people. So we say Mia is taller than Cassie, and we added an er. So as much as Mia is taller than Cassie, right? But we can then say Ben is taller than the both of them, right? So Ben is taller than both of them, right? Which means that if Ben is taller than both of them, we can say Ben is the tallest, let's say maybe in class, or the tallest boy in class. So we compared Mia to Cassie, and that is comparative because we compared two people. But when it's up, right? We compare more than two people. So yeah, we compared Ben to the whole class, so basically all of the boys in class, and we said Ben is the tallest boy in class, and we ended in est, tallest. He's not just tall, but he is the tallest boy in class. So if we compare him to all the other boys in class, then he is the tallest boy in class. And that is called a superlative adjective. And remember, we need to remember that compare these two types of adjectives that compare, right? We have the comparative adjective that compares two people, and we have superlative adjective that compares two people. And of course, they compare two people more that compares more than two people, sorry. And with comparative adjective, they compare two people, animals, places, or things, and they end in er. And the superlative adjective compares more than two people, animals, places, or things, and they end in est. And there we also have our examples. All right. So now we can go to let's go to a+students.ca. And we're going to start with our tutorial lesson. So a+students.ca. And we're going to the second one, which is to identify comparative and superlative adjectives. And remember, we said that when we compare adjectives, then we have a superlative adjective and we also have a comparative adjective, right? And we say the comparative adjective, it compares to people, to animals, to places, or to things, right? And it ends in er. And we said it ends in er. And that is a comparative adjective. We compare to people, animals, places, or things. And we also made an example. Here's an example of taller, right? So our base word is tall. That is our base word. So it's like saying Andy is tall. If we compare Andy to his sister, then we can say Andy is taller than his sister. And then we added an er to that word tall. And if we compare to the rest of his class, then we can say that is a superlative adjective, right? Where we compare more than two people, animals, places, or things, and it ends in est, then we can say he is, which is Andy, is the tallest person in class. So now we have not just compared him to his sister, but we've also compared him to the rest of his class. And of course, with the rest of his class, there is more than two people in his class. All right. Okay, so now we're going to look at the activity, right? They're saying this is the highest heel. We need to find the adjective that compare. That compares. So whether it is comparative or it is superlative adjective. This is the highest hill in Oakland. So this is the highest hill in Oakland. So we need to find the adjective that compare. So if we look at that sentence, this is the highest hill in Oakland. We are comparing this hill to the whole of Oakland. So what is our adjective that compare within that sentence? Remember, we said that our adjective that compare either ends in er or it ends in est. That is when we compare. All right, so if we find the adjective that compare within the sentence, and then we can say it is highest. All right, because this is a superlative adjective. This is a superlative adjective, and it compares this hill to all of the other hills in Oakland. So highest is our adjective that compare, and it ends in est. And like we said, it's a superlative adjective. It compares more than two, let's say, things. Grandpa is the oldest man we know. So grandpa is the oldest man we know. We need to find the adjective that compares. Grandpa is the oldest man we know. What is the adjective that compare within that sentence? Grandpa is the oldest man. All right, so if we select the adjective that compare, we would then say this is oldest. And oldest ends in est, which means that this is a superlative adjective. This is a superlative adjective, and it compares grandpa to all the other men, the other grandpas that we know. Because we are saying that grandpa is the oldest man, which means that we are comparing grandpa to all the other men that we know. So they're saying grandpa is the oldest man we know. We don't know any other men that is as old as grandpa. And that is called a superlative adjective, and it ends in est. And then we need to find the adjective that compares. There's the flattest spot in the park. That's the flattest spot in the park. So that's the flattest spot in the park. And if we find the adjective that compare, we can say flattest. So flattest is our adjective that compare. This is a superlative adjective. And our adjective ends in est. And we basically compared that spot in the park to the whole park. This specific spot we compared to all the other spots in the park because this is the flattest spot park. And that is a superlative adjective and it also ends in est. All right. Let's go to our test. We need to find the adjective that compares. Remember, we said we have a comparative adjective and we have a superlative adjective, right? We said a comparative adjectives, it ends in er and it compares either to people, to places, to animals, or to things. And then we have a superlative adjective, right? Which compares more than to people, places, animals, or thing. And it ends in est. So now we're going to find the adjective that compares. Snowy is the whitest goat of all. Snowy is the whitest goat of all. So we need to find the adjective that compare. Is it whitest or is it goat? So is it whitest or is it goat? So we need to find the adjective that compare. All right, so if we find the adjective that compares, we can say snowy is the whitest. So whitest is our adjective that compare. And whitest is actually a superlative because we are comparing snowy to all the other goats. So whitest. And whitest is correct. So well done. Whitest is correct. Well done. Gabby's homework was harder than Beth's homework. So Gabby's homework was harder than Beth's homework. So adjective that compare, is it homework or is it harder? So Gabby's homework was harder than Beth's homework. All right, so if we find the adjective that compare, we can say harder. And it also ends in er, right? Which means that if it ends in er, then this is a comparative adjective. This is a comparative adjective, right? So we compare Gabby's homework to Beth's homework and ends in er, so we say this is a comparative adjective. So harder is our adjective that compare. So well done. Harder is correct. So well done. We need to find the adjective that compares. This is the highest hill in Oakland. Highest or is it Oakland? So is it highest or Oakland? So this is the highest hill in Oakland. So we need to say it also if it's a comparative or a superlative adjective. All right, so if we select or find the adjective that compare, then we can say it is highest because that hill is be compared to all the other hills in Oakland, right? So highest is correct because we are comparing that hill to all the other hills in Oakland. And highest ends in est, which means that this is a superlative adjective. Superlative adjective. So highest is correct and it's a superlative adjective. So well done. Highest is correct. Blue Point is nicer than Lakewood. So Blue Point is nicer than Lakewood. So Blue Point is nicer than Lakewood. Now we need to find the adjective that compare. All right, so if we select the adjective or find the adjective that compare, we can say it is nicer. So we say it is nicer. And nicer ends in ER, which means that it is a comparative adjective. We are comparing how nice Blue Point is than Lakewood. So we are comparing that too, right? So it is nicer. And that is a comparative adjective and it ends in ER. So well done. That is correct. An ant is lighter than a bee. An ant is lighter than a bee. So is our answer lighter or ant? So we need to find the adjectives that compare. The ant is lighter than a bee. Is it lighter or is it ant? All right, so if we select the adjective that compare, we can say it is lighter, right? And since an ant is smaller, it is very lighter than a bee, right? And it also ends in er, which means that this is a comparative adjective. It compares how light the ant is to the bee. So lighter is correct. So well done. Lighter is correct. All right, so now we're going on to our next lesson, which is does the adjective compare two or more than two? We need to say if the adjective compares two or more than two. And we said some adjectives compare people, animals, places, or things. And we have a comparative adjective and we have a superlative adjective. And a comparative adjective compares to people, animals, places, or things, and it ends in er. And then we have a superlative adjective, right, which compares more than two people, animals, places, or things. And they end in est. All right. So now we need to look at the adjective in bold. Now we need to say, does it compare two people or does it compare more than two people? This is the adjective in bold. Does it compare two people or more than two people? Tina is older than Justin. Tina is older than Justin. Is it comparing two people or is it comparing more than two people? So Tina is older than Justin. Is that comparing two people or more than two people? All right, so if we look at the word in bold, which is older, right, we can then say Tina is older than Justin, which means that we are comparing two people. So we are comparing two people because we are actually saying that Tina is older than Justin. We are comparing Tina and Justin. All right. We need to look at the adjective in bold. Does it two pigs or does it compare more than two pigs? Phil's pig is fatter than Deb's pig. So Phil's pig is fatter than Deb's pig. So the word in bold is fatter. Are we comparing two pigs or are we comparing more than two pigs? So Phil's pig is fatter than Deb's pig. So if we compare those two, then we can say it is two pigs that is being compared. Because we are comparing Phil's pig to Dave's pig. So we say that Phil's pig is fatter than Dave's pig. So we only comparing two pigs. Sorry. All right. Luke's house is colder than my house. Luke's house is colder than my house. Are we comparing two houses or are we comparing more than two houses? So Luke's house is colder than my house. So are we comparing two houses or are we comparing more than two houses? All right, so if we look at the word colder and it ends in ER, then it means that this is an adjective and we are comparing two houses. We are comparing how cold the two houses are. And that is a comparative adjective. All right. Now we're going on to our test, right? On does the adjective compare to or more to? So we need to look at the adjective in bold. Does it compare two pools or does it compare more than two pools? Our pool, is warmer than Dana's pool. So our pool is warmer than Dana's pool. So are we comparing two pools or are we comparing more than two pools? All right, so if we look at the word warmer and it also ends in ER, right, then we can say this is a comparative adjective, right? Because we are comparing our pool to Dana's pool. It's like comparing two pools, right? And it ends in ER. So we are comparing two pools. And two pools is correct. The kitten is softer than the cat. So the kitten is softer than the cat. So the word softer, are we comparing two animals or are we comparing more than two animals? So softer, is that comparing two animals or more than two animals? We need to say if it's comparing two animals or more than two animals. And softer, yes, we can say we are comparing two animals because we are comparing how soft the kitten is compared to the cat. So comparing two animals. So well done. Two animals is correct. Luke's house is colder than my house. So Luke's house is colder than my house. Are we comparing two houses or are we comparing more than two houses? Colder. All right, so we are basically comparing Luke's house to my house, which means that we are comparing two houses, and that is a comparative adjectives. So well done. That is a comparative adjective. two houses is correct. And then the blue train is faster than the red train. So the blue train is faster than the red train. Are we comparing two trains or we comparing more than two trains? So faster ending in ER. So are we comparing two trains or more than two trains? So faster ending in ER. All right, so we can then say this is comparing two trains because we're saying the blue train is faster than the red train. And we said our adjective ends in ER, then it is a comparative adjective. So two trains is correct. And then the old rope is shorter than the new rope. The old rope is shorter than the new rope. Are we comparing two ropes or are we comparing more than two ropes? So are we comparing two ropes or more than two ropes? So the old rope is shorter than the new rope. All right, so we can then say the old rope is shorter than the new rope, right? Which means that we are comparing two ropes, saying that the one is shorter than the other one. So we are comparing two ropes. So we can say, oh, sorry. We've got the next one, which is Dusty is the fastest pony of them all. So fastest. Is this comparing or more than two ponies? So Dusty is the fastest pony of them all. Are we comparing two ponies or more than two ponies? All right, so in this case, we are comparing. This is a superlative because we are comparing more than two ponies. All right. So more than two is being correct, being compared, and that is a superlative adjective. So well done. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on adjectives that compare. And we said we compare either to people, places, animals, or things. And if we compare two people, animals, things, we call it a comparative adjective and it ends in ER. And if we compare more than two animals, places, things, right, and people, then we call it a superlative adjective and it ends in EST. All right, so that is the end of our lesson, grade ones on adjectives that compare. Thank you very much for joining our class and thank you very much for being interactive. You should have a good day further. Goodbye.